All right, hi everybody. David Fogel with you, CEO of the Symphonina Foundation, back with another Symphonina Foundation podcast. And today I've got composer Callen Clarke with us. And Callen, it's your second time on the show, which makes you officially a friend of the show. So congratulations.
Hey, that sounds great.
Yeah, well, welcome back. And Callen, thank you so much for your submission this year to our 2025 Best Symphonina of the Year competition. You're a finalist with your Symphonina No. As I understand, as we're talking ahead of our show here, it's not the last Symphonina, which is great. We'll get to that in a minute for you, but your Symphonina No. called The Sea Witch, and I want to have an opportunity to share it. It was a finalist in our competition and roundly liked by the judges and me personally, and I want to give you an opportunity to share it with all of our listeners. So let me just turn it over to you to tell us about your composition, and then we're going to listen to the three movements of the piece together, you and me, along with the audience, and we'll have a little conversation about it as we go.
Okay, so I was working on some concertos last fall that are supposed to be Spanish Arabic based. And in the middle of that, sometimes your brain comes up with something that's not useful. But it was a little fiddle tune.
That's true.
It was a little,
Yeah.
And I had recently watched that wonderful John Huston film, Moby Dick. And in Moby Dick, there is the ship's cabin boy, and he's this young African American actor. And for some reason, in the middle of it, during this really mysterious scene, he sings this tune, this pentatonic tune, and it's mesmerizing every time I see it. When I came up with this tune, I thought about kind of the sea and kind of that era, the early 1850s and the clipper ships and all of that stuff. Moby Dick, of course, is about a whaler, but I wanted to write something about a clipper ship. So it was a clipper ship reel, which I had no use for. I had no use for that. I had already decided to write a Symphonina for the contest and had a completely different plan in place.
Okay.
But then things just came around, and when it came time to write it, I thought, no, let's give it a go. So it's because of that reel, which is the theme in the third movement, because that reel is a little bit, I don't know, it's a little bit kind of edgy, and it's kind of that minor key. I just decided that the Sea Witch would be a great choice for that, because the Sea Witch was a really plucky ship, very fast, one of the earliest clippers, basically doubled the speed of transportation in her day, which was phenomenal. Yeah. It's a huge deal. A huge deal almost 200 years ago. So, yeah.
Well, the car would be a huge deal. 200 years in the future, we'll look back and go, that was a big deal, but maybe it won't be even important. Yeah, that's how time goes. But let me ask you, did you do a lot of research about this ship then in order to write your music, or how did you get the inspiration for the three movements that you wrote?
No, I didn't do any research at all.
Okay.
I am a clipper ship nut. The research was already in place. It was it's already there.
Okay.
I got onto this. I like to read history, and I like to read maritime history and naval history, history of the sea. And the clipper ships, I got onto it a few years ago, and I got sucked in, and it's an abyss of no return. And so I knew all about the Sea Witch before I ever started this thing. So hopefully that kind of comes through in the music. There's some enthusiasm there, I hope.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's go listen to the first movement. It's the Call of the Sea. Do you want to set it up for us?
No, it's self-explanatory.
All right. The music speaks for itself, everybody. Here we go. All right, and we're back
Should
from the call of the sea, Callen. I have to tell you, I want to go sailing.
we...
When I hear
Awesome.
the flute, yeah, I know when I hear the flute in the beginning and it's just all calm and peaceful, it makes me want to go sailing. And then the horns come in there, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is kind of like this is more than just we're going for a sail. This is something like it's a commitment. It's
Awesome.
something
Awesome.
you've
Yeah,
very
the horns, we should mention that, this is a MIDI demo. This isn't a real
yes,
orchestra, which
yeah,
people probably can tell. Those horns, I like that horn sound, but in the score, it's four horns in unison, which is something that it's not common in orchestral in symphonic writing, but it happens all the time in film score. It didn't quite have that four horns. It sounds more like maybe two horns, which it should sound like more. I don't know why it didn't
it was
quite come
enough for
across
me,
there.
Callen.
Okay,
I
awesome,
I got
awesome.
I got it, and I'm sure our listeners did too. Yeah, no, it's like all of a sudden we're in a different kind of sailing. Like they're sailing for just like, oh, let's go tool around, and then they're sailing like, no, this is like a lifelong commitment thing. We're committed to what we're doing here. This is like more important.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
very very good. And I
Fantastic.
love the dissonance too. The dissonance is like it's not all smooth sailing. It's like
Hmm.
there are some
Yeah.
things there that they have to get our attention.
Well, I think that Lydian mode is it just has this expansive sound. I've always liked that sound. So, yeah.
Yeah. Your second movement is Griffiths at the foot of fourth, which I think deserves an
Yes.
explanation.
Yes. Deliberately cryptic.
Yes.
I don't know how many of the judges gave me bad marks for my cryptic titles, but anyway.
Probably none of them.
So, yeah, hopefully not. So, John Griffiths was the builder, the designer of the Sea Witch,
Oh,
and
okay.
he really was. He's one of those people that they could make a movie about him. He had this dream to build a ship that was faster than any other ship in the world, and at the time, ships you had shipwrights. You didn't have naval architects. You had shipwrights, and ships were designed and constructed. They used models and they sort of used, it wasn't a science. It was more of an art.
Interesting.
And there was a lot of tradition and a lot of conservatism. And he said, no, 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 no. I, we're gonna do something radically different, and it's gonna be the fastest ship that has ever been put to sea. And the amazing thing is that he convinced somebody to build this thing, and they built it, and it performed flawlessly.
Hmm.
And so that's the amazing part of the story. His ideas, and he wasn't a sea captain. He didn't grow up, working in a shipyard. He was just, I don't even know where he got his ideas from. He lived in New York City, and the shipyard was called Smith and Dimon,
Okay.
and it was built. The shipyard existed between Fourth and Fifth Street on the waterfront on the East River. So anybody who's been to New York City or who lives there, the place where that shipyard existed is probably about, I don't know, three-quarters of a mile inland underneath some of the buildings there.
Oh,
But at the time, between Fourth and Fifth Street, the Smith and Dimon shipyard in 1846 they were building the fastest ship in the world. And so I wanted to have a fugue, because fugues, I think, are very constructive, the counterpoint.
hmm,
And you think about building a ship, you think about all of the things involved, all of the different kinds of craftsmen and laborers, and coordinating the materials and all of that. It just sound, my mind just naturally went to the idea of a fugue. And then the other thing is using the double stops in the strings, which makes this very folky sound. And of course, you're sawing too, right? So,
yes.
you
Yes.
know,
Hmm.
if and when this gets played in public, people will, hopefully they'll kind of connect the idea of people working in a shipyard sawing these big planks with the players, sawing
Yes.
on their instrument.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think those visuals are very important, actually, and they do get overlooked sometimes when we analyze music just for its own
Yeah.
sake.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
the visual impression is also important. It changes how it makes you feel about something.
Yeah. I mean, music is this kind of music is something that happens in front of people,
Right. Right.
That's ideally,
Right.
so.
All right. Well, with that, we'll go take a listen. Okay, we're back from the foot of 4th Street. A very industrious crew you have there working away.
Yeah, five part fugue there for a little while. Yeah.
I love the
So
string
I should
work there
mention
too.
for those, yeah, for those who can clue into the fugue form, it actually the first notes that you hear are not a fugue, it's a canon with the woodwinds. And then the fugue sort of interrupts the canon that start, the canon sounds like, oh, well, this is the piece, but then the fugue interrupts it.
Hmm.
And that canon at the beginning in the woodwinds comes back as the fanfare with the trumpets at the end.
Yes.
And so it's actually a fugue sandwich between two cannons. So, yeah.
I guess I have to ask if the Sea Witch had any cannons, but I'm guessing if it was a fast ship, maybe not.
It did actually. It
It did.
did.
Okay. Everybody's got to
Because
defend
yeah, they
themselves in
had,
the 1800s.
well, if you were on what they called the China Run,
Hmm.
then and you were going back to you were going through an area called the Straits of Malacca, there were pirates.
Okay.
And if a clipper ship, if the wind was right, then you're correct that the clipper ship didn't have anything to fear from these pirates. These pirates were Malaysian pirates, and they had a kind of ship called a proa, which is an oared ship. And so
Okay.
again, if the wind is right,
Hmm.
a clipper ship can outrun anything, so that's no problem. But if there was no wind, you were in trouble. And
Yeah.
so they actually did carry cannons
Okay.
in case the wind wasn't right. So, but of course, those are two different words.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Well, you spoke about this run, and then your third movement, the final movement. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. The run from Anger.
Yeah, Angier.
Okay.
It's actually the word Angier is actually a mispronunciation
Okay.
of a Chinese word.
Oh.
But the Sea Witch had a captain during one of her voyages named Robert Waterman, and he is a legend, somewhat infamous character for things that he did later on. But at the time he was in command of the Sea Witch, her run from Angier to New York City was the fastest ever, and I believe it's never been broken by a ship of comparable configuration. So
Where is that located?
pretty well. It's I believe Angier today is the Chinese port of Huampoa or Guangzhou. I'm actually not sure.
I
It's
see.
one of those
Okay.
places. Yeah, yeah.
And how would that run go in the old days from China to New York City? What direction
You would
would you
go, you
sail?
would leave you would leave the southeast Chinese coast,
Hmm.
and then you would proceed through what's called the Straits of Malacca, which even today, the Straits of Malacca is a kind of a maritime bottleneck. There's a lot of traffic that goes through there,
Hmm.
and there are pirates there still. You can still get attacked
Oh
there,
my
believe it or
gosh.
not.
Okay.
Indonesia and Malaysia, it's been kind of an unbroken danger spot
Hmm.
since ancient times. But once you get through the Straits of Malacca, then you're going across the Indian Ocean,
Okay.
and then you have to round the Cape of Good Hope, South Africa,
Yep.
and then you go diagonally up the Atlantic from the South Atlantic to the Eastern Seaboard.
Yep.
And yeah, so
Long
quite
trip.
a deal. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna go. We're gonna go listen to this long adventure. All right. I think we made the run.
We made the run.
We
That's
made the
right.
run successfully. I like that solo trumpet there at the end. That's where I kind of felt like, okay, we got it. We made it.
Yeah, yeah, that was the idea. It's a quote of a sea shanty called Blood Red Roses,
Okay.
and the concertina at the end of the second movement. That's the same tune. It's quoted twice, and that's to represent the sailors, because they're the ones that actually did all the work. So yeah,
Absolutely.
the interesting thing about that sea shanty, Blood Red Roses, nobody knows what it means. I mean, it's lost in the mists of time. The meaning of it, I mean. So, yeah.
Well, I don't know exactly how to put this, but all sea shanties have their own sort of twist on things. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? It's always either a sarcastic twist or some other sort of thing in there. So, right, I wouldn't presume to know what blood red roses actually means, but we could imagine 100
Yeah.
things that it could mean. So,
Yeah, 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 for
yeah,
sure. For sure.
absolutely. Cal,
Yeah.
congratulations on such a great piece. And I hope
Thank you.
that having listened to it again here, and maybe the people who are listening with us, somebody would like to perform that. And we're going to get to some other things that you're doing. But I want to just prompt everybody right now. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Via Facebook. Also, I have an email. Should I give him my email? Should
Yeah,
I do
sure.
that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. callenclarkeverse@gmail.com. So, and you can also look me up on Facebook, Callen Clarke on Facebook. So,
And we'll also be more than happy to help be a conduit to anybody who wants to get in touch with you at any time here
great.
at the Symphonina Foundation. Now, you told me that you're going to actually expand on this concept for your next Symphonina and maybe even more Symphoninas beyond that. So, clue me in. What are we talking about?
Yeah, well, about 5 days after I had turned this one in for the contest, and I was down to the wire on that, but I
You
did
were,
I did get it turned
you were, but
in.
but you did get it in.
But I just woke up one morning and I had a tune in my head that I thought that would be perfect for another clipper ship themed symphonina. So I'm super super pumped about that. And what I envision, there are four or five, like I said, I'm kind of a clipper ship nut. So in my mind, there's like 20 that everybody should know about. But in terms of music, there's maybe four or five that deserve their own piece of music. So I'm thinking of a set, maybe kind of something like the planets, what
Uh huh.
Holst did with the planets.
Yeah.
But instead of planets, these would be clipper ships. And instead of single movements, they would be symphoninas, which I think is a great form. It's so concise, and challenging to write for. You
Well.
know, you think of a miniature symphony, and to me, the whole concept of a symphony is melodic development. You're taking a theme and you're developing it.
Mhm.
But with the rules of the Symphonina, minimum three movements, maximum length, 10 to 12 minutes, there's not a lot of space for melodic development in there.
Right. Right.
So what I did with this tune was, I spread the development across the three movements. So
Mhm.
you I don't know if you noticed or not, but the themes of each of the movements are related. And in the third movement, the other themes from the other movements are actually quoted in the third movement and combined harmonically and so on.
A
So,
great way to go,
yeah.
actually, in symphony development if you want to connect movements one, two, and three, or maybe four. No one that I know has tried a
Yeah.
five movement symphony yet. I always just say three or four movements, melodic movements that
Yeah.
are about the length of a typical streaming tune, but someone could
Yeah.
presumably do five and it wouldn't break the rules too bad. But yes, that's a good way to make sure that we tie things together. It can be done explicitly like that. That's great. What other things are you working on presently? Or maybe you've
Um,
just wrapped
I
up?
Yeah, I did a short film. There's a great filmmaker, indie filmmaker near where I live named Ben Richardson, and he has directed and produced a short film for a group of actors here, and it's called The Session. And he just asked me in late December if I'd be willing to provide some music for that. And so it's not the first time that I've done media music. It's not the first time I've contributed to an independent project, but it's the first time that I've done one that is actually like narrative, like a story, as
Okay.
opposed to a documentary or something like that.
Nice.
I just think it's a great short. It's a short. It's about 7 minutes long. What's really exciting about the music I did for the session is I've been teaching myself. I've been learning the Baroque lute over the past 2 years. And again, I just came up with this tune in the middle of working on this. I was practicing the lute and I came up with this little tune on the lute and I wound up pitching it to Ben and I said, "Do you want to use this?" At first he was like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm not feeling this," but I kind of talked him into it. And so I recorded myself playing the lute and put some orchestra parts with it and very, very pleased with the outcome. So,
Excellent. Well, I hope we get to have a watch and a listen. When do you think it might be released for the public?
well, it's doing the contest, the festival rounds right now. So
Uh-huh.
it might be 6 months
Okay.
or so before
Sometime
we
this
just
year.
yeah, sometime this year.
Sometime this
Yeah.
year. Okay, well you let us know and we'll be sure to help promote that once you're ready for it. And again, if people want to get in touch with you, Callen, what's the best way to do that?
Facebook, Callen Clarke on Facebook. And also maybe you can put my email in the
We will be
description for
pleased to
this
do
thing.
that. callenclarkeverse at gmail.com. We'll be pleased to put that in your bio on the Facebook
Great.
page. And Callen, thank you again for sharing your great composition with us for the contest. And now we've had an opportunity to share it with everybody else as well. And I do look forward to seeing this performed, not just hearing it, but seeing it performed at some point in my
Yeah,
life. I hope we have the
me too.
opportunity to help facilitate that. And I'm looking forward to your eventual classical compendium entry I sense coming for the Grammys at some point in the future. A
Oh,
Symphonina,
that'd be
Sailing
fantastic.
Symphonina. Yes, absolutely. I hope so. And as always, if we can be of any help to you at the Symphonina Foundation, just let us know. We're going to listen to some more of that great music on the way out here.
Great.